Picture this: a dimly lit boardroom, the air thick with frustration. 10 of the brightest minds in their fields sit around an imposing oak table, laptops open and papers scattered everywhere. Each one has been handpicked by the CEO to solve what's become known as the $300 million problem. For weeks, they've tried every trick in the book: complex algorithms, cutting-edge technology, even consulting retired legends from their industries, but nothing works. The company is hemorrhaging money, its reputation on the line, and time is running out. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, two unassuming figures step into the spotlight. Not engineers, not PhDs, not consultants charging thousands per hour, but twin daughters of the building's janitor. What happens next will leave you questioning everything about expertise, opportunity, and how we define success. Let me introduce you to Sarah and Emily, identical twins who are as sharp as they are humble. Their dad, Mark, has worked at this sprawling tech campus for over 2 decades. Every day, he pushes his cart through hallways buzzing with innovation, quietly keeping things running smoothly while others chase big ideas. But Sarah and Emily, they're different. While other kids spent weekends playing video games or scrolling social media, these two were glued to books about puzzles, math, and logic. By the age of 10, they could solve Rubik's Cubes faster than most adults. By 15, they'd built robots out of spare parts scavenged from Mark's maintenance closet. And now, at 18, they're finishing high school but dreaming bigger than anyone ever expected. None of the suits upstairs knew much about them or cared to, but that was about to change. The problem itself wasn't just some abstract challenge. It had real-world consequences. A glitch in the company's supply chain software had gone unnoticed for months, causing massive inefficiencies and costing millions each week. Fixing it required someone with a unique perspective, someone who could see patterns where others saw chaos. When the CEO announced an emergency meeting to brainstorm solutions, Mark happened to be mopping outside the door. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but something caught his attention: a mention of modular arithmetic, a concept Sarah and Emily had once explained to him during dinner. On a whim, he suggested bringing them in. At first, the executives laughed. Then they hesitated. Finally, desperate and out of options, they agreed. After all, what did they have to lose? Walking into that boardroom felt surreal for Sarah and Emily. It wasn't just the polished furniture or the stern faces staring back at them, it was the weight of expectation. Here they were, kids fresh out of calculus class, being asked to fix something seasoned professionals couldn't. Yet instead of shrinking under the pressure, they thrived. With calm confidence, they started asking questions no one else had thought to ask. Why did certain shipments always arrive late? How did weather conditions affect delivery routes? Was there a pattern hidden in the data everyone had overlooked? As they spoke, jaws dropped. These weren't random guesses, they were insights born from years of curiosity and relentless problem-solving. By the end of the meeting, the room buzzed with cautious optimism. Could these girls really pull it off? What makes Sarah and Emily's story so compelling isn't just their intellect, it's their humanity. Growing up in a modest household taught them resilience and resourcefulness. Watching their dad work tirelessly instilled a deep respect for hard work and integrity. They didn't walk into that boardroom expecting fame or fortune. They simply wanted to help. And yet, Their presence forced everyone in the room to confront uncomfortable truths. Why hadn't anyone thought to include voices like theirs before? How many potential solutions had been ignored because they came from unexpected places? This wasn't just about solving a technical issue. It was about redefining what leadership looks like in a world obsessed with credentials and titles. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah and Emily dove headfirst into the project. Armed with nothing more than their notebooks, a whiteboard, and boundless determination, they began untangling the mess. Along the way, they faced skepticism. Not everyone believed two teenagers could succeed where experts had failed. Some whispered behind closed doors, questioning whether this was just a publicity stunt. Others dismissed their methods as too simplistic. But Sarah and Emily didn't let doubt derail them. Instead, they leaned on each other, drawing strength from their bond as sisters and partners. Slowly but surely, pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. Patterns emerged, connections clicked. And then, one evening, as the rest of the office emptied out, they found it the solution nobody else had seen. But here's where the story takes a twist. Solving the problem was only half the battle. What happened next would test the limits of fairness, loyalty, and ambition. News of their success spread quickly, reaching the ears of not just the CEO but also the media. Reporters clamored for interviews, eager to put a face to the miracle workers. Social media exploded with praise, memes, and hashtags celebrating the janitor's daughters. Meanwhile, inside the company, tensions simmered. Employees whispered about promotions and bonuses, wondering if Sarah and Emily would receive proper recognition or if their contributions would be swept under the rug. The CEO, however, had plans of his own. Plans that would change everything for better or worse. In the days following their breakthrough, Sarah and Emily found themselves thrust into a world they barely recognized. Gone were the quiet evenings spent tinkering with gadgets in their dad's workshop. In their place came invitations to gala events, offers from top universities, and job prospects beyond their wildest dreams. But with every new opportunity came a choice: stay true to themselves or embrace the glitz and glamour of sudden fame. Their dad, Mark, watched proudly from the sidelines, reminding them daily of where they came from and who they were. Yet, even he couldn't shield them from the storm brewing within the company. Rumors swirled about secret meetings, undisclosed agreements, and promises made behind closed doors. Something was coming and it wasn't going to be pretty. So here's the question hanging in the balance. What does the CEO do next? Does he reward Sarah and Emily for their brilliance, setting a precedent for inclusivity and innovation? Or does he prioritize profits and politics, leaving the twins to wonder if their efforts truly mattered? One thing is certain. Whatever decision he makes will ripple far beyond the walls of this corporation. It will redefine how companies value talent, how society views underdogs, and how individuals navigate the fine line between opportunity and exploitation. Stay tuned, because the answer might surprise you and it could very well change everything. You thought you knew about success, and now, dear viewers, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a situation where your voice was ignored because of where you came from? Or maybe you've witnessed someone rise above expectations despite the odds stacked against them. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you're loving this story so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of triumph, resilience, and the power of believing in yourself. Because trust me, the best part of Sarah and Emily's journey is still ahead. You won't want to miss it. To understand how Sarah and Emily ended up in that boardroom, you have to go back a little further. Their journey wasn't just about solving puzzles or fixing software, it was about overcoming the invisible barriers that often keep people like them on the sidelines. Growing up, they didn't have access to fancy coding camps or private tutors. What they did have was curiosity, grit, and a father who believed in them even when the world didn't. Mark would often bring home discarded gadgets from work, broken printers, old laptops, anything he thought might spark their interest. For most kids, those items would end up gathering dust in a corner. But for Sarah and Emily, they became treasures waiting to be unlocked. They'd spend hours dismantling them, figuring out how each piece fit together, teaching themselves through trial and error. That same spirit of exploration is what eventually led them to crack the $300 million problem. But let's not forget the other players in this story. The experts who had failed where two teenagers succeeded. These weren't amateurs. These were highly educated professionals with decades of experience between them. So why couldn't they solve the issue? The answer lies not in their lack of skill, but in their approach. Each expert came armed with preconceived notions, relying heavily on industry jargon and established methodologies. When one solution didn't work, they doubled down on similar tactics instead of stepping back to rethink the entire framework. It was almost as if they were too close to the problem to see it clearly. Meanwhile, Sarah and Emily brought fresh eyes and a willingness to question everything. They didn't care about following protocol, they cared about results. And that made all the difference. The tension inside the company only grew thicker as word spread about the twins' success. Employees whispered in hushed tones during coffee breaks, speculating about what this meant for their own futures. Some admired Sarah and Emily, seeing them as proof that talent could come from anywhere. Others resented them, feeling threatened by the idea that two outsiders had accomplished what an entire team of seasoned pros couldn't. Even among the executives, opinions were divided. While some praised the CEO for taking a chance on unconventional thinkers, others criticized him for undermining the authority of his own staff. Behind closed doors, debates raged over whether the twins deserved recognition or if their contributions should be quietly absorbed into the company's narrative. Without fanfare, taught for Sarah and Emily, navigating this new reality proved challenging. Overnight, they went from being virtually unknown to becoming the center of attention. Reporters hounded them for interviews, eager to turn their story into headlines. Universities flooded them with scholarship offers, while tech giants competed to recruit them straight out of high school. At first, the excitement was intoxicating. Who wouldn't want to be celebrated as heroes? But soon, cracks began to show. The pressure mounted as everyone around them seemed to have an agenda. Were they being genuine, or were they just trying to capitalize on their moment of fame? Worse still, the constant scrutiny started to strain their relationship with their dad. Mark had always been their rock, the person they turned to for advice and encouragement. Now, he found himself struggling to keep up with the whirlwind surrounding his daughters. Amidst all this chaos, the CEO faced a dilemma of his own. On paper, the decision seemed straightforward: reward Sarah and Emily for their brilliance, set an example of inclusivity, and move forward stronger than ever. But corporate politics rarely operate on logic alone. There were shareholders to appease, egos to manage, and long-term strategies to consider. If he publicly acknowledged the twins' role in solving the problem, what message would that send to his existing workforce? Would it inspire innovation or breed resentment? And then there was the matter of compensation. How do you fairly compensate someone whose contribution saved your company hundreds of millions of dollars? Too little, and it would look insulting. Too much, and it could set unrealistic expectations for future hires. Every option carried risks, and the clock was ticking. As the days passed, subtle signs hinted at the direction things were heading. The CEO scheduled private meetings with key stakeholders, carefully choosing his words to gauge reactions. He spoke glowingly of Sarah and Emily in public, but remained vague about concrete plans for their future within the company. Meanwhile, whispers reached the twins' ears, rumors of secret negotiations, undisclosed agreements, and promises that may or may not be kept. It was impossible to tell fact from fiction, leaving them caught in a web of uncertainty. Should they trust the CEO to do right by them, or should they start looking out for themselves? The weight of the decision bore down on them, testing their faith in both the system and each other. And yet, amidst all the drama, moments of clarity emerged. Late one evening, after another exhausting day of meetings and media appearances, Sarah and Emily found themselves back in their favorite spot, the small workshop tucked away in their dad's garage, surrounded by half-finished projects and tools scattered across the table. They finally allowed themselves to breathe. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Emily asked quietly, her voice tinged with doubt. Sarah hesitated before answering, her gaze fixed on the makeshift robot they'd been tinkering with since childhood. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know one thing: we solved the problem because we stayed true to ourselves. No matter what happens next, we can't lose sight of that." Little did they know, their resolve would soon be put to the ultimate test. The next morning, an email arrived in their inbox, an official statement from the company outlining its plans moving forward. As they read through the carefully crafted language, their hearts sank. It wasn't what they had hoped for, not even close. The document painted their involvement as a collaborative effort, downplaying their individual contributions while emphasizing the role of the executive team. Worse still, it included no mention of tangible rewards, no promotions, no bonuses, nothing beyond a vague promise of future opportunities. Betrayal burned hot in their chests. Had they been used, exploited, or was this simply business as usual? The fallout was immediate. Social media erupted with outrage as leaked copies of the email spread like wildfire. Supporters rallied behind the twins, accusing the company of greed and hypocrisy. Critics, on the other hand, argued that Sarah and Emily should have known better than to trust corporate America. Amidst the noise, Mark stood firm, reminding his daughters that their worth wasn't defined by a single act of brilliance or by anyone else's validation. Still, the question lingered: what now? With the world watching and their reputations on the line, Sarah and Emily had a choice to make. Would they walk away, content with knowing they'd done something extraordinary? Or would they fight back, demanding the recognition they deserved, and perhaps sparking a movement far bigger than themselves? As events unfolded, alliances shifted, secrets unraveled, and loyalties were tested. The climax approached with relentless intensity, pulling every thread of the story tighter until it seemed ready to snap. And just when it felt like answers were within reach, another twist emerged, one that would force everyone involved to confront uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and the cost of standing up for what's right. The resolution was closer than ever, but so were the stakes. Whatever happened next would leave an indelible mark not just on Sarah and Emily, but on the entire company, and maybe even the industry at large. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get any more complicated, a surprising ally stepped forward, one of the senior executives who had initially dismissed Sarah and Emily. Her name was Lisa Chen, and she had been quietly observing everything from the sidelines. Though her role in the company gave her power, she had often felt stifled by its rigid hierarchy. Seeing Sarah and Emily's brilliance, and the way they were being treated ignited something in her. Late one evening, Lisa reached out to the twins privately, inviting them to meet at a small cafe off campus. There, over cups of coffee, she laid out what she knew. The CEO wasn't planning to honor their contributions publicly or financially. Instead, he intended to bury their involvement under layers of corporate spin, using their success as a PR boost while sidelining them entirely. Lisa's revelation hit hard, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. She proposed a bold plan, one that would require courage, trust, and perfect timing. Together, they could expose the truth, not just about how Sarah and Emily solved the $300 million problem, but about the systemic issues within the company that allowed such exploitation to happen in the first place. It was risky. If things went south, they'd be painted as troublemakers, their reputations tarnished. But if it worked, it could spark real change, not just for them, but for everyone who had ever been overlooked because of where they came from. After hours of deliberation, Sarah and Emily agreed. They weren't just fighting for themselves anymore, they were fighting for every janitor's kid, every self-taught coder, every dreamer who dared to believe they belonged in spaces built to exclude them. The next morning, Lisa leaked an internal memo to a trusted journalist, a document detailing the CEO's plans to downplay the twins' contributions. Within hours, the story exploded online, igniting debates across social media platforms and news outlets worldwide. The public outrage was swift and fierce. Employees of the company began speaking out too, sharing stories of their own experiences with unfair treatment and lack of recognition. What started as a scandal quickly morphed into a movement, with hashtags like #credit where it's due trending globally. Under mounting pressure, the board of directors called an emergency meeting, demanding answers from the CEO. For the first time in his career, he found himself backed into a corner, forced to confront the consequences of his decisions. In the days that followed, the company announced sweeping changes. Not only did they publicly acknowledge Sarah and Emily's role in solving the supply chain issue, but they also implemented new policies aimed at fostering inclusivity and rewarding innovation regardless of rank or background. The CEO issued a formal apology, not just to the twins, but to all employees who had felt undervalued. Some critics argued it was too little, too late, but others saw it as a turning point. As part of the settlement, Sarah and Emily received substantial compensation, including scholarships to pursue higher education and roles as consultants to help reshape the company's approach to problem solving. More importantly, they gained a platform to share their story, inspiring countless others to break free from the limitations imposed on them by society. For Mark, watching his daughters rise above adversity filled him with pride, but also a sense of vindication. All those years of working tirelessly behind the scenes, often unseen and unappreciated, had taught him the value of persistence. Now, seeing Sarah and Emily recognized for their brilliance reminded him that no act of kindness or effort goes unnoticed forever. He continued his work as a janitor, humbled yet emboldened by the knowledge that greatness can come from anywhere, even the quiet corners of a bustling tech campus. As for Sarah and Emily, they returned to their workshop, grounding themselves in the familiar rhythm of tinkering and building. Fame hadn't changed, the MIT had only deepened their resolve to use their skills for good. While they embraced the opportunities that came their way, they remained committed to staying true to their roots. Their journey became a testament to the power of curiosity, teamwork, and believing in yourself even when the odds seem insurmountable. And though they faced challenges along the way, they emerged stronger, not just as individuals, but as catalysts for change. This story isn't just about two girls solving a multi-million-dollar problem. It's about challenging assumptions, breaking barriers, and proving that brilliance knows no boundaries. It's about the importance of giving credit where it's due and creating systems that uplift rather than suppress. Most of all, it's a reminder that sometimes the people we least expect hold the keys to unlocking the future. So the next time you see someone pushing a cart down a hallway or fixing a broken machine, take a moment to consider what untapped potential might they carry. Because you never know, the next big idea could be hiding right in front of you. And now, dear viewers, I want to leave you with this thought. Who are the unsung heroes in your life? The ones whose contributions go unnoticed, whose talents remain hidden beneath layers of expectation and bias. Maybe it's time to shine a light on them to give them the recognition they deserve. If Sarah and Emily's story has inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep the conversation going and continue championing the underdogs, the dreamers, and the doers who refuse to let the world define their limits. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, greatness can come from anywhere.